Hello, everyone. My guest today is Jesse Robbins. He's the CEO and founder of Orion Labs. Before Orion, he founded Chef and is widely recognized for transforming the way companies like Facebook, Google, and Yahoo manage complex internet systems. He also founded the Velocity Conference and helped start the DevOps movement. Jesse, are you ready to take us to the top?
Sure am.
We were joking before this. My dev team at Heyo, they're always going, we need to update. We need to get on Chef, do all this stuff. Briefly tell us what Chef is and how you worked with Facebook and these guys.
So Chef's an automation platform that makes infrastructure as code. Before Chef, I worked at Amazon, where I got to understand sort of problems at massive scale. So we founded Chef to help developers and systems engineers in the world at large run bigger, better systems. And so many companies use it in order to power their infrastructure and what we like to think of as deliver time to value.
And this was all out of the goodness of your heart, totally open sourced, right?
So Chef is open source, and the company is obviously a large commercial company. Chef operates a platform and also sells software that people are able to use, and it's built on top of an amazing community of contributors and engineers and folks that help make the world of infrastructure a more awesome place.
Did you stay active as they began to commercialize, or had you left the company already at that point?
Oh no, I'm the founding CEO of Chef, and I was there for a little over 5 years full time, and obviously I'm still very involved and passionate about it as an advisor and shareholder.
All right, so why leave? Orion must have been very sexy. Why leave?
So my background is I'm a firefighter EMT by training, and as Chef began to grow, I found that it was sort of time and ready for me to leave it in good hands with the amazing team that's there. As I said, I'm a firefighter EMT, and I wanted to kind of cash in the credibility that you get when you found something big and successful and do something much harder. And so I set out to build Orion based on my experiences using radio systems as a firefighter, but believing that voice would become the new interface and wanting to apply what I learned over my years as an entrepreneur and a builder and an infrastructure builder, and give people something better in an industry that isn't as focused on by the traditional tech industry, which is the $10 billion plus push to talk and walkie-talkie industry that runs most of the world and daily operations.
So the risk in this interview is that my audience doesn't actually latch on to what you do, right? And they're going to miss all the lessons then. Can you tell me a story of a customer using you in a really simple way?
Sure. So our typical customer is a small to medium-sized business that has a group of people that need to be eyes up and hands-free to do their work. They need to be connected in real time using the power of their voice. They're not sitting behind a computer or a desk. So think about healthcare, a doctor's office, a hospital. Think about transportation, delivery, logistics. When a company comes to your door to deliver food, they often have a radio or hopefully increasingly the Orion app and devices in order to remain connected in real time to the people that they need to be connected to do their jobs. So this is a massive market when you think about, like, when you're at the airport or when you're at a conference or other event, you see walkie-talkies and radios everywhere. They power they're the email and chat and Slack of kind of the real-time mobile heads-up world. Unfortunately, this is a product and category that hasn't really been reinvented for technology. It's very stagnant. It sort of stays the same. So Orion has built an app, platform, set of devices that let people communicate in real time, heads up, using the power of their voice, and now apps and third-party integrations.
So what is the revenue model? You just mentioned hardware. Are you producing your own hardware with low margins, or is it a pure software play, high margin?
So we are a SaaS and software business. However, we do make our own devices.
Hold that up. Hold that close to the camera.
It's called Onyx. And so Onyx is basically like a Star Trek communicator badge. You push a button and talk, and anyone can hear you wherever they are using the Orion network. We also connect that with bots and integrations. things that allow real-time voice workflows for environments like retail, where you go to a retail shop, you often see someone has an earpiece in. We make a sort of super-powered version of that lets them talk to the same people that they normally would, but also lets voice bots and integrations appear, and so they can say, "Oh, can you bring that thing from the back? Bring me item 3." And instead of them having to, have a bunch of people running around trying to find that, it activates a workflow that enables automation, just like we've done with Chef.
Interesting. Okay, and so how do people pay you $1? Is it Target, who has 20 cashiers per store, a seat at their thing, or what?
Yeah, so we charge a per seat subscription recurring revenue fee. We also charge for our devices. So these are $99 each, and the service starts at about $6 a month per user. Obviously, we then charge for add-ons like real-time language translation or voice workflows and other pieces. It's very much kind of the typical land and expand model. We show up, we provide something extremely valuable, transformative technology for our customers, and what they start out buying is just push to talk. But then they follow on and say, "Oh, we want to be able to speak in one language and have each other person in their language understand." We charge a little bit more for that per month, but base price is $6 a month recurring.
When a customer starts at $6 a month, I assume these are probably bulk deals across large organizations, but typically what are you able to expand per seat revenue to year over year because they're upgrading? Do you have that, like a predictable model around that yet, or no?
Not yet. We launched this product about 3 months ago. And so we're just starting to see some of the larger customers come on. Mm-hmm. It's interesting when you're selling, I'm used to selling enterprise software.
Wait, Jesse, real quick, were you pre-revenue before that?
We weren't pre-revenue, but effectively this business was the subscription recurring revenue business was launched about 3 months ago.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So the industry we're selling into is kind of dominated by like the most enterprisey of enterprise sales models. We're talking 1, 2, 3 year cycles where you've got multi-stage proof of concepts, FCC licensing for radios. My favorite story is my co-founder Greg needed to get a software license. And he had to take a class to use the procurement system to be able to find the part number to buy for the radio so they could send him a paper license and a CD, which we then had, of course, to buy a DVD drive so that we could read the CD because who uses those anymore?
We just lost about 60% of our listeners. Thanks for that.
Oh, you want me to do it again?
That is insane. Now, what deal size is he chasing with that kind of investment? I mean, are these multi-million-dollar per year deals or no?
It really ranges for these types of customers that are coming out of the legacy environment. We're talking about sometimes 500,000 to sometimes 500 million nationwide deals. Okay. That are they're massive. They're core infrastructure. And we're showing up and saying, yeah, go to our website or buy our product on Amazon and then pay us $6 a month, and you've got something that works anywhere and gives you superpowers. So it's been exciting.
Remind me again, what month did you launch the SaaS model?
In September.
And what have you scaled to today in terms of total seats on the platform?
Many.
You know what I'm going to come with next. I'm sure Jesse did a great job preparing you. Can you give me some minimum? I mean, are we talking like 1,000 or 10 million?
Somewhere between those two numbers.
Okay, so are we talking 100,000 or 10?
Yeah, so we've got we have thousands of users on the platform. And they range in for us, what matters most is people come and buy our product because they're trying to solve a problem for themselves and their team first. And then it's amazing in terms of inbound that we get out of that. We had a major manufacturing company show up and say, we want to go from 5 seats to 65,000 seats this year. Are you able to support that? Yes, of course we are. But that same 5-person group might also just be some friends going skiing together. So what we find is we're able to use consumer-like customer acquisition, and then that surfaces really big enterprise companies. It's very similar to sort of what happened with Slack in the early days. And I'm sort of pushing the company to match sort of their early stage customer acquisition growth path. It's a little bit different because the industry we're going into, often we might be the first smartphone app that they actually install on their smartphone, which has been pretty surprising.
Why? Because they're more old. I mean, I hate to say it this way, but they're just more old school.
Yeah, no, it's just different customer type, right? Like they're, when you think about, we're not a Silicon Valley startup that's saying, oh, we're going to give you a better app game experience. We're talking about changing the way that foundational parts of society work and making those better with technology. And so it's the mainstream in that world is just mainstream America. And so those users are just people typically trying to solve a problem. The person that brings us in is a tech early adopter, but they're not using Slack. They're not using Facebook Messenger typically. We actually released a report recently. Their primary communication method is phone and SMS message. And so when we show up, we're like, hey, good news. Did you know your phone can do all this stuff too? And so, it's this huge opportunity. What's exciting for us is once we start with these organizations where we say, oh, cool, we're going to
Jesse, by the way, sorry, you mentioned thousands of seats. How many organizations right now are you working with? Like a dozen or so, something like that?
So it's somewhere between 50 and 100.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. More we had to move rooms so that you couldn't hear the bell ringing. The sales team is doing that a lot today.
That's good.
So the biggest lesson for us, so just to give you some kind of some metrics. So the market that we're entering, the mature part of it is about 5 million active users every day. Those are using the legacy PTT services from the carriers and from the major competitors. Of those, we find that about 85% of them, 85% of customers that we survey are looking for actively a new tool. They're unhappy with what they have. They want to use voice. And so what we find with our own data is we go into these customer groups and we say, here's Orion, here's what we do. They get using our service. And then they go from sending a couple of quick test messages to, I have our little data sheet here.
I was about to say, you have been well prepared because you're reading off something. I'm going, okay, this is good.
Yeah. 645 messages per group per day, which
that's industry or what you're seeing?
No, that's what we're seeing on our own platform.
Across one organization?
Across one group in an organization. Yep.
What's the difference between a group and an organization?
Organization might have many groups.
Okay. You're talking, but the marketing team, the tech team, that's a group.
Yeah. So it's again, Slack is kind of the comparison, right? So you might have your general group and then you might have a bunch of subgroups that have different people in them.
Yep.
And the most active ones we're seeing a small team using it hundreds of times a day, more so in some cases than we would see with Slack. And then we start to add bots into the equation. So our IFT integration lets you say, oh, I'm going to add voice commands that then interact with other services. And it just explodes. It's been really impressive.
When did you launch the company at the beginning?
We started the company in 2013 when everyone thought that voice was dead and that I was crazy.
Wait, so what the hell were you doing for 4 years? You said you just launched the paid SaaS model a couple months ago.
Yeah, so we began by launching a consumer offering first in order to basically build and refine the product and the platform.
Free?
You initially have to buy Onyx, right? So we launched the SaaS model concurrently with our app modes and a bunch of these other integrations. So originally we ran the business exclusively on selling our own hardware, and basically as we've grown, truthfully a lot of time in R&D as well, getting things right. It became time to then build the actual exciting part of the business.
Did you raise capital so you could generally keep the hardware prices as low as possible just to get adoption?
No, we raised capital because building hardware costs a lot of money, no matter how you view it.
How much did you raise?
We've raised about $30 million.
Okay.
Since 2013.
And what does it cost you to make one of those little devices?
These retail for $99, and we make about 30 or 40 bucks per. Okay. It depends on which channel you buy them through.
And that was your only revenue stream for the first 3 or 4 years.
Yes. Yeah.
That's okay. Interesting. And so how did you know when it was time? You looked at it and said, we have enough consumer adoption. It's now time to go to B2B enterprise.
Just overwhelming customer demand. So basically that story that I told you a few minutes ago, where you have somebody show up, they buy 5 to use with their friends, they love them, and then they go, hey, so, I work at this giant company, and we're right now looking to, to change the way we do voice. Can you help? Do you have a product? Yes, we absolutely have a product for you. And we've been building in this direction the whole time.
So how many consumers did you sell to those first 3 years?
Thousands.
Okay, thousands.
Again, yeah. And we have a 4.0 rating on Amazon right now. Like, you have to. The main thing is this device that costs $99 does the things that in the market that we compete with. A commercial radio costs between $600 and $12,000. That does kind of many of the same things with a bunch of different limitations and without the superpowers that Orion gives you.
Has your SaaS revenue monthly eclipsed what you're making from the one-time hardware sales, or are they still equal, or is one still above the other?
So it's 30-day free trial. So we're technically only a couple months into the SaaS numbers. It will quickly eclipse it. Also, we find that with these types of customers, I thought that everyone was going to want to do monthly recurring only, but we've been getting a lot of checks coming in for year-long purchases.
Okay.
Yeah, we had to learn how to deposit a check a couple days ago, so that was exciting. It was the first big enterprise deal. So yeah, different types of customers, but boy, they love what we're doing.
Have you lost any customers, any seats? I imagine you've lost at least a few. Why have the ones you've lost? Why did you lose them, and what percent are you losing?
So the biggest challenges are we're for our BYOD customers, where we're deploying out for like a group of security guards or a volunteer group. They might have a really different set of handsets, and our biggest issue has been making sure we're on top of all the different Android variants that we have to support and providing a great experience there. So customer churn for us has come in sort of 2 issues. The first is the product either didn't meet the needs that they had because they didn't have enough users that have smartphones, which is again, we're talking about non-San Francisco Bay Area tech early adopters. And then the other one was they had older Android phones in particular that just didn't have the horsepower to run the software securely in a way that provided a great experience. So we spent a little bit of extra time rebuilding parts of our app in order to work across a wider variety of those phones. But that definitely was a source of customer churn when we were beta testing.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm curious, when you put together like projections for your first full year of selling the subscription stuff, what you project? I mean, I assume right now with, you said a couple thousand seats at $6 a pop, you're, call it 12 grand, which obviously people might listen to go, that's a small number, but you're just starting. I mean,
you're just starting. Yeah.
I mean,
the magic of subscription recurring revenue is that it builds every day. So
what is your churn? What are you churning seat wise monthly?
So it's too soon to provide an actual churn number,
okay.
But in terms of expectations, it's super sticky. If a customer stays on past the trial, they're probably not going to churn because we've just given them something that their business is running on now. Mm-hmm. So, and I should say the other thing that we run into is, this is a pretty mature market. And so there's some switching costs, right? If you're using a legacy, there's, as I said, over 5 million users of these legacy products. And
what's the biggest legacy one besides an Android device? What's like the biggest?
So the biggest legacy one is a traditional commercial or radio system. Which I'll grab one from Prop Comedy.
I was going to say it's probably huge, isn't it?
This is the radio that I use as a firefighter. So
who manufactures those?
So Motorola, JVC Kenwood, Vertex, these are companies that make really high quality, well-engineered products, but they're made for a very different type of customer and a very different type of market.
True or false, that business for them is declining, I imagine, with technology.
Nope, right? Growing. Yeah, growing every day. Yeah.
No. I was trying to lead you down a path, but you killed it, so we won't go there. I was going to wonder, I mean, if these guys are moving focus elsewhere and these markets are declining for them with the advent of smartphones being more powerful, I was just going to ask you, why not go raise a bunch of money and buy those divisions?
Well, so Motorola is a strategic investor in Orion, and they're like a $10 billion revenue business. So
just the walkie-talkie one part.
Just that part. So this is a huge,
do they have a recurring
huge
fee, or it's one time?
Their business model, I'd let them talk to, but the main point is that as I said, like they're definitely not selling. No one is selling the type of service and experience that we are. As a service with really inexpensive devices that give you those superpowers on regular smartphones, other than Orion. And,
so for them to buy you for $500 million, you need to make them feel it. You need to forward them the emails where you convince the boss to switch from the Motorola device to you guys and say, you better buy us before we get too big, right?
I'll let you speculate on that.
Okay. I'm just saying, why else would you take them as a strategic advisor? Why would you want to give them the information on your growth? They have all the information rights. Why would you do that?
Well, so now you're getting awfully specific, and the simple reality is that I think strategic investors in general invest in companies that they want to learn from and see the future in. And so for Orion, by taking money from a great partner who's got amazing engineering resources and sort of all of these other capabilities, we gain exposure to something that we value. And again, as I'm a firefighter by training, my life has depended on these amazingly well-designed products from Motorola. But for the most part, like I'm not in a situation that needs a heavy-duty public safety radio. I and our customers are in an environment where they just want to use their smartphone apps and services.
There are many companies like this where the sole reason they do it, though, is to understand if something's getting hot, and if they do, quickly build it themselves. It's literally information rights. How do you? It feels good now. It's all comfy, cozy. How do you project yourself against that?
I'm a pretty experienced operator, and I've raised a lot of capital and helped a lot of other companies do it.
I know you're smart. Give some lessons to my audience. If someone else is in the same situation, I'm not hitting you hard. I'm trying to pull lessons out.
Yeah. No. So I think the biggest thing that when I give advice to other founders and they're thinking about those types of strategic relationships, you really want to consider. Number one, are you doing this in a way that is actually going to be right for your company? And you don't want to do deals that are like you described. You do want to do deals that are there's obvious alignment. There's a potential for partnership. You believe that they have something that they can help you with, and you have something that you can bring to the table for them. And as a result, what you definitely want to do is make sure that the way you share information is the way we would want to share it with any partner. We live in a complicated world. It's complicated to build businesses. Often you have to partner and work with companies that you compete with in other markets. An environment that I'm very familiar with, Amazon, this is always tricky, right? Microsoft, this is always tricky. Google, this is always tricky. And so as a startup, you need to recognize that your advantage is always, always, always speed and ability to do stuff that makes people happy immediately without the burdens and shackles of a legacy business that you need to build and protect. When I started Chef, the team and I, we believed in doing things in a different way, and we were very happy to share with and work with our partners. Orion is the same. This is this massive market. It's incredibly meaningful. There's millions and millions of users who just want to get their work done better, and so we're happy to work across the ecosystem with big companies, with other small companies like ours, when we're trying to build something great.
Any bot or algorithm is only as smart as the inputs you give it. You obviously control the voice input, right? That is going across your system. Now, it's a tough decision to decide what you record or what you don't record and how you power any recording to make the system smarter. How do you balance that, and are you recording calls?
Oh, really great question. We use end-to-end encryption, and we're actually about to roll out a network-wide full end-to-end encryption that means that we're not able to intercept or listen or do anything else. But privacy, security, integrity of our platform is paramount. And the way that you need to do that in order for customers to trust you in the long term is to provide them the security assurances that when they're using your device or product or service, that they can trust that at the core. So with Orion, what we do is it's always very clear when you invite a bot in that is able to interact with you, that can do real-time audio processing, streaming, etc. You see that just like any other Orion client. So when you invite a bot in, for instance, our translation bot, you see it, you talk to it. And so that way it's always clear, it's always disclosed, it's always obvious. Mm-hmm. We partner with and use the services of Microsoft and Google, IBM, Amazon, and several others And the reason we do that for services like transcription is you might not want to run one service or another. You might need to run your own cloud environment if you have like HIPAA or other specific privacy and integrity concerns. A thing that sets Orion apart is our early investment in privacy, security, particularly in end-to-end encryption, and the clarity that we provide people when a bot or other entity joins a group. That is something that is secure between you, works anywhere, works all the time. But
Jesse, you're not using your own, the voice data you're capturing or not capturing, you're not using that in any way to power the bots, to make the bots smarter. You're relying on external sources.
No. So to be clear, if you invite an Orion bot in and it uses in one of those services I just described, then we are transiting that data as you would expect. What matters is that's clear and its usage is extremely clear. And so, when you're using like a transcription service, of course, that stream is being heard and responded to and goes into that AI system. People have to have informed consent when they do that. And so we put that control in people's hands. If you don't want to have a bot that can process that information, do not add it to your group, and it cannot be recorded.
Got it. Last few questions here. Team size today. What are you at?
We are at 44.
All based out, I assume you're in the Valley?
So we're in the South Market area in San Francisco. We have a remote team of a couple of folks, 3 people working remotely currently. We're hiring a lot. I think we have 18 open headcount right now.
Mostly tech engineers?
No, so half sales and half engineering. Yep.
Got Jesse's hiring salespeople. There you go.
A lot of salespeople. Yeah.
That's great. Are you doing a typical kind of quota model, inside sales model?
Yeah, so we have an inside sales model, and then AEs for monster accounts, which it's where we now have to add another one because our first AE got immediately overwhelmed with some really exciting large deals.
How fast did it take him or her to beat their quota since they were hired?
They've beat their quota every quarter.
Okay, and when did they join?
2 quarters ago.
That's great. So that's good. Last question here. What do you think AR will grow to on this platform by the end of the year? What's your goal, stretch goal?
A lot.
north of 5 million?
So
that'd be impressive.
Yeah, that would be impressive. I would love to see 3 to 5 plus. It's very possible when you look at a startup launching a new business, that would be pretty impressive to see. I look more at the trajectory than the actual exit run rate, just because, particularly for a SaaS business like ours, where we see a really high viral uptake when we sign up an organization. We don't know yet whether they're going to have 5 or 5,000 users, 2 months later. And because the business is so new, it's hard to predict, exactly what the conversion points are going to be. So I look forward to coming back and sharing some fun stories and perhaps some more specific data.
The chef guy isn't supposed to be able to sell himself into another interview slot. Look at this guy closing the deal. It's good stuff, Jesse.
Hey man, I appreciate it.
So 3 million run rate. I mean, what that you'd have to go basically from 2,000 seats or a couple thousand today to up to like 44-ish thousand, 250 a month takes you to 3. I mean, that would be good growth.
Yeah, that's pretty. So the interesting part for us is that actually probably the most valuable thing for businesses like these, we see 5 to 10 users come on right away. Then they need a little bit of help getting to spread out inside of the organization. And that's when we find out, it turns out this business has 60,000 employees. We've got to put together a ramp in order to get more and more folks online. And again, we're talking about kind of mass deployments and other things. So
that's great.
It's too soon to say whether we might even get that from a single customer.
Yep. No, it makes total sense. Let's wrap up here quickly with the famous 5. Number 1, last business book you read.
The last business book I read was Crucial Conversations.
Crucial Conversations. Number 2, who was the last person you had dinner with in your town that you consider kind of a business friend, a business mind?
I haven't actually had dinner out this year yet because I've been working so hard.
Last meal with
was James Lindebaum from Heavy Bit.
Heavy Bit. Okay. Number 3. Besides your own, what's your favorite online tool?
IFT.
Yeah, if isn't that good stuff. Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
6 on a good night.
All right. And what's your situation? Married, single, you have kids?
Long-term partner.
Okay. Long-term partner, no kids?
No kids.
Okay.
Just startups that change the world.
That's good. That's good. And how old are you?
I am 38.
38.
Oh, wait, no, I'm 39 now. I just turned 39. Yeah.
Happy birthday. Happy late birthday. All right. Last question. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
Don't sell your Amazon stock when you quit.
When did you sell?
2006.
That's the worst. Will Bezos be the first trillionaire?
I have no idea, but it seems pretty. I mean, it seems given the world that it wouldn't be the wrong bet to make.
Very, very politically answered. There you have it from Jesse. Again, big success with Chef, obviously still involved there. Left recently back in 2013, really started getting adoption on Orion, specifically with their consumer sector, selling several thousand of their $99 devices. They started realizing, wow, there's a lot of demand for kind of an enterprise play here. They've now launched many months ago. They launched their $6 per month per seat plan so that folks in retail environments, firefighters, other environments that need one-to-one communication in a hands-free space can do it, even in a secure environment like in a doctor's office like HIPAA. So we'll see as they scale. Jesse, thank you so much for taking us to the top.
Thanks for having me.